In conclusion, motivation to be milked appears weak, variable, and not strongly related to stage of lactation, and is therefore unlikely to be a significantly important incentive for attracting cows to automatic milking system. Motivation to access a concentrate food reward was more robust and could be used reliably to attract cows into automatic milking system, provided the animals were not able to satisfy their motivation elsewhere. Hello, today I want to answer a redundant question. I think we kinda know the answer to this one, but we have some evidence now. The question is, do cows want to be milked? And this is the article we're going to review today. Relative motivations of dairy cows to be milked or fed in a Y maze and an automatic milking system. Whether cows gain some reinforcement from being milked is important for the number of reasons. Firstly, the commercial success of any automatic milking system, initiated by voluntary visits from the cows, will depend in part on their motivation to enter the system. If they choose to attend more frequently than twice daily, we would expect an increase of 10 to 15% in milk yield, provided that their nutrition is satisfactory and they have appropriate space and time for eating and rest. Attendance less than twice per daily would reduce milk yield due to autocrine feedback inhibition of alveolar milk secretion. I think this means that if you stop milking a cow, then she doesn't produce as much milk. It makes sense. Us mammals, we only produce milk when we have to, when there's a baby to feed. So if you stop milking, they might stop producing milk altogether. Reduced milking frequency may also increase incidence of mastitis. So this reference is 600-page long, and I couldn't be bothered to check it, so we're just gonna accept this empirical claim. It doesn't matter anyways, this is not the point we're trying to seek out here. Too frequent a level of attendance may lead to the system wastefully processing cows for whom there is no economic advantage to milk. So if cows aren't given milk but they still want to visit the system for some reason, it's a waste of electricity, isn't it? Right. However, the relative motivations of a cow to attend the system may influence how it is designed. For example, if cows are strongly motivated to be milked per se, then there will be little need to provide additional rewards in the system, example food, to encourage further attendance up to a predetermined level. Alternatively, milking may generate a weaker incentive than food for cows to enter the system and could lead to a more optimal level of attendance. Interesting so far. Secondly, if cows gain some reward from being milked, then system that allows free access to a milking station will have advantages to cows over systems that do not, principally by allowing them greater control over their environment, which has been associated with improved welfare. Thirdly, and allied to the second reason, is public perception of conventional and novel milking system will be enhanced if cows are shown to find milking positively reinforcing. Spoiler alert, they don't. But let's continue. There are at least 3 theories why a dairy cow may gain some reward from being milked. First is the discomfort of a large and distended udder. This may be true in the early stages of lactation when the udder cell number, size and differentiation increase as milk yield increases up to a peak, the discomfort of which may be relieved by milking. Rathor found that cows yielding more milk volunteered to enter a conventional parlor earlier than cows yielding less. However, Hyder et al. And Winter found no such effect. Okay. An alternative theory is that cows may enjoy being milked for psychological reasons, in that it satisfies some motivation to suckle a calf. This is the saddest sentence I've ever read. A motivation which may wane through lactation, mirroring the natural weaning process. Both Trivers and Bateson suggest that with time there is a decline in parental investment in their young. Yeah, when calf grows, I suppose, they don't need milk as much, so the cow produces less milk. I'm just guessing. Here, parental investment may be the provision of milk, although the potential for this to be expressed in the unnatural circumstances of a milking parlor, not sure why unnatural is in parentheses there. I don't think it's under contention that parlor is not natural, will depend on how the decline is facilitated. The third potential reason for dairy cow to choose to be milked is that the process of letdown, I need to define letdown. Milk letdown in dairy farming is the process by which milk is released from the udder of the cow. When oxytocin reaches the udder, it causes the epithelial cells surrounding the milk cells, alveoli or however you pronounce that, in the udder to contract, forcing milk out into the ducts. The milk duct, udder and teat reservoirs then become filled with milk. Milk letdown has occurred, and the cow is now to be milked. Cows have to be stimulated to let milk down. The milk letdown process starts with cows being brought to the milking parlor with the general pre-milking sounds such as cans being moved around. This causes the nerve impulse in the brain to activate the pituitary gland to release the milk letdown hormone oxytocin into the blood, so cows needs to be tricked to give milk. And the lovely image of shit. Excellent. But we are digressing. So the third potential reason for dairy cow to choose to be milked is that the process of letdown or milking is positively reinforcing. Letdown may be positively reinforcing due to the involvement of the hormone oxytocin, which implicates in sexual arousal and orgasm in some animals. So there is a creepy bestiality cult. One more proof of that. Milking may be positively reinforcing due to tactile stimulation of the cow's teat by the milking system. Awesome. 2 studies were described here. So the first experiment had 3 stages and was using the U-maze. Here's the little diagram. This is the holding stall, this is the decision area, this is where the cow decides to go right or left. Spur 1 and Spur 2 are basically exactly the same, milking machine on each side, and I will explain later why it's symmetrical like this. And then there are 2 exits. Each experiment followed a similar design. 6 cows were divided into 2 groups or 3. There is a little spelling mistake. Group 1 were trained to associate one side of the maze with the treatment and the other with the other treatment. Group 2 were similarly trained but with treatment reversed between the spurs. Group 1 was trained to be milked on this side, Group 2 was trained to be milked on this side, and they had to walk through the other side to know that there is no milking there. The cows were then allowed to choose between the treatment 5 times per day for 9 days. The treatments were then transferred between the spurs for each group, the cows retrained, and the experiment continued for a further 9 days with 5 trials per day. This design was adopted to identify any cows who chose a particular spur despite the treatment it contained. This may happen because some researchers have shown that animals have initial preference for using one or other spur independent of the treatment. In cattle, handedness has been observed. Cows are known to prefer certain sides of the parlor for various reasons. So experiment 1, 6 high-yielding early lactation cows were given the choice between being milked or not. In experiment 2, the cows were later in lactation and yielding less than half of the amount of milk. This is a bit of a tangent. It was intended to use the same cows in this experiment as were used in the previous experiment, but at a later stage of lactation. By the time the former cows were in late lactation, however, one was chronically lame, one dried off, and another had mastitis, so dairy cows have hard lives. In experiment 3, this experiment gave 6 cows the choice of being milked or receiving 330 grams of food. Then we move on to experiment 4, which is on the automatic milking system. The system was available to the cows between 4 and 10:30. Any cow that failed to attend the automatic milking system during the day was milked after the system has been closed for voluntary traffic. So in this fourth experiment, 6 high yielders and 6 low yielders were used. The experiment comprised of 2 8-day periods. The first involved giving the cows no food reward in the automatic milking system. In the second period, the cows were fed concentrate in the exit area of the milking stall via 2 automatic concentrate feeders. Excellent. For 10 days before the start of the experiment, the cows were trained. The first 3 days involved running the cows through the system without milking them. For the remaining 7 days, the cows were batch milked twice per day to accustom them to the milking process. I just want to point something out in yet another tangent. So cows can actually be trained to do stuff. This means that vegans are right and cows are just huge cross puppies and are as smart as dogs. Right, let's get to the results. Some cows appeared motivated to be milked. In experiment 1, cows 1, 4 and 5 all chose to be milked frequently and followed the milking treatment as it was transferred between the spurs of the maize. Other cows appeared indifferent. For example, cow 6 in experiment 1 initially chose to be milked, but when the treatment was transferred between the spurs, she continued to choose the same spur and consequently was not milked. Some cows appeared averse to being milked. In experiment 2, cows 7, 11 and 12 largely avoided the milking spur. So this means that cows have different preferences, but they don't get a choice, do they? In dairy, all get milked, whether they want it or not. In experiment 1, the cows as a group increasingly chose to be milked, and this trend was significant for both halves of the experiment. A quick reminder, in experiment 1 it was high-yielding cows, meaning they were in the beginning of their lactation. In experiment 2 the cows showed a significant but reversed trend to this in the first half of the experiment, but not in the second half. This data suggests that for the high-yielders as a group, voluntary milking may have been significantly reinforcing, but this was not true for the low yielders. When the cows were given the choice between being milked or fed, experiment 3, they all chose to be fed at every opportunity. And that's the crux of it, isn't it? But let's continue. In experiment 4, when cows were not fed, attendance was low for both high yielders and low yielders alike. The variation was relatively high, however. Some cows did not volunteer to visit at all, while 2 cows, one in the high yield and one in the low yield group, accounted for 62% of all visits. When the cows were fed in the automatic milking system, the high yielders attended significantly more often than they had when not fed, and more often than the low yielders. The low yielders did not attend more often when fed and when not. They just don't give a fuck. Discussion. The results suggest that motivation to be milked is weak, variable, and may be independent of stage of lactation. The high yielders did increasingly choose to be milked as experiment 1 progressed, while the low yielders did not, implying that milking may have been positively reinforcing in early lactation only. However, in contradiction to Mann-Whitney, U-test found no significant difference in the number of milkings chosen by the high and low yielders. Other field seems unimportant because most of the high yielders and some low yielders chose to be milked at the minimum milking interval of 3.5 hours in the U-maze, at which interval there have been little milk in the other, meaning that the motivation is probably not the fact that they feel some kind of pain if they don't get milk for a while, which is a known farmer trope. This was not recorded by presumed milk synthesis rates, blah blah blah. The cows may therefore either be deriving some physical reward from being milked, example tactile stimulation of the teats, or the oxytocin released during letdown, or some psychological reward, for example they may associate the milking process with feeding a calf. The variability of the motivation to be milked suggests that some cows may find being milked negatively reinforcing, whereas for other cows milking may be positively reinforcing. There are 3 reasons for concluding that motivation to be milked was weak. First, the cows took a comparatively long time to show evidence of learning, an apparently simple response even after a training period. Secondly, the cows exhibited a high degree of variability in their response, implying a generally weak motivation. Finally, in experiment 3, the cows chose a food reward over being milked exactly, on the presumption that strength of motivation is related to the speed and uniformity within a group of learning a task. Experiment 3 showed that motivation to eat a concentrate reward was significantly more rewarding in comparison with the data from experiment 1 than being milked. Finally, in conclusion, motivation to be milked appears weak, variable, and not strongly related to stage of lactation, and is therefore unlikely to be a significantly important incentive for attracting cows to automatic milking system. Motivation to access a concentrate food reward was more robust and could be used reliably to attract cows into automatic milking system, provided the animals were not able to satisfy their motivation elsewhere. I think this last sentence means that in order for cows to get into the automatic milking system, they're gonna be starved for a little while. I think we got our confirmation. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.